Hello and welcome to Moonlight Stories, a place where we find a little bit of magic in the lessons life teaches us. Tonight's tale is for anyone who has ever felt the heavy weight of a dream that didn't work out, for anyone who has ever been so afraid of failing that they simply stopped. It's the story of an artist named Elena, and the night she learned that the most beautiful creations aren't born under the glaring sun of judgment, but in the gentle, forgiving light of the moon. Her studio, once a place of vibrant chaos, was now as silent and still as a forgotten attic. The dust on her wheel a testament to 2 years of creative silence, all because of a single, stinging failure. She believed her art was gone forever. Until a most unusual challenge arrived. Imagine an artist's studio. But instead of the creative mess you might picture, this one is clean, silent, and still. The canvases are rolled up, the tools are neatly put away, and a fine layer of dust covers everything. This is Elena's studio, and for 2 years, she hasn't created a thing. You see, Elena was a brilliant potter, full of promise. But at her first major art show, a prominent critic publicly dismissed her work as derivative and clumsy. The humiliation was a poison. It didn't just criticize her art, it convinced her she was a fraud. So, she stopped. The fear of creating something less than perfect, something that could be judged and found wanting, became a wall she could not climb. One afternoon, as Elena sat staring at her silent wheel, there was a knock at the door. It was her old mentor, Mr. Odicha, a potter now in his 80s, whose hands were gnarled but whose eyes were as bright as ever. He took in the spotless studio, the unused clay, and the sadness in Elena's posture. He didn't offer condolences. Instead, he set a small bag of fresh clay on the bench and issued a challenge. "Elena," he said, "for the next 100 days, you will make 5 small pots each day." Elena's heart sank. 5. That was impossible. But Mr. Odicha held up a hand. "There is one rule, a crucial one. At the end of each day, you must take a hammer and you must smash 4 of them. You are only allowed to keep 1 pot, the 5th one. You choose which one survives." Elena was horrified. "Smash them. Why?" "What's the point if I just destroy them?" Mr. Odicha gave a gentle, knowing smile. "The point is not the pot. The point is the making. The rule is the lesson." And with that, he left. The next day, Elena approached her wheel with a familiar dread. Her first pot was terrible. She overworked the clay, trying to force it into a perfect, elegant shape. It was stiff and soulless. The second was worse. By the 5th, her hands were trembling with frustration. She looked at them 5 pathetic, ugly little pots. With a heavy heart, she chose the least terrible one to save. Then, closing her eyes, she raised a small mallet and smashed the other 4. The sound of the breaking clay was like a gunshot in the silent room. It felt like violence. This agony continued for a week. She would labor for hours, growing more and more frustrated. The pots were awful. Smashing them felt like a confirmation of her failure. But around the 10th day, something shifted. She was so tired of the struggle, so fed up with the pressure, she thought, what does it matter? They're just going to be smashed anyway. So, she sat down, took a lump of clay, and just made a pot, quickly, without thinking. It was lopsided and the rim was wavy. It was, by any standard, ugly. But for the first time in years, she hadn't judged it while she was making it. She just made it. She made another and another. She tried a weird, flared base. She attached a handle that looked like a seashell. She stopped trying to make art and started just making pots. The hammer, which once represented judgment, now became a liberator. Since the pots were destined to be destroyed, she was free to fail, and in that freedom, she began to play. She experimented with textures, with glazes she'd been too scared to try. Each smashed pot wasn't a failure, it was a lesson. Oh, that clay was too wet, or that glaze combination is dreadful, or that shape is actually kind of interesting. The days turned into weeks. Her hands became swift and sure. The muscle memory returned. The studio was no longer a place of silent judgment, but a playground of discovery. She'd have music playing, and the daily ritual of making 5 pots became her favorite part of the day. The choice of which one to keep became easier, not based on which was perfect, but on which one had taught her something new. On the morning of the 100th day, Elena made her final 5 pots. They were strong, confident, and full of character. She saved one, a beautiful piece with a graceful spiral, and smashed the other four with a sense of gratitude, not grief. That afternoon, Mr. Oddity returned. He stood at the door and didn't ask about the final pot. Instead, he said, "Show me your shelf." Elena led him to a long wooden shelf that ran the length of her studio. And there they stood, 100 pots. The first ones, on the left, were clumsy, thick, and awkward. But as your eye moved down the line, you could see the story unfold. The walls grew thinner, the shapes more fluid and inventive. The glazes became more complex and daring. It was not a collection of 100 separate pieces. It was a single, beautiful, undeniable timeline of her growth. It was the physical proof of her journey. Mr. Oddity ran a gentle hand over a pot from day 70, a bold, asymmetrical vase. He looked at Elena, his eyes shining. "You see," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You thought the challenge was about making one perfect pot. But it was never about the pots you kept." He gestured to the 4 empty buckets filled with the shards of broken clay. "The true work happened here, in the 400 you let go of. You were so focused on creating a single masterpiece that you forgot a fundamental truth. An artist is not made in one brilliant moment. They are built brick by brick, pot by pot, especially the ugly ones. Success is not the absence of failure. It is the courage to proceed through it. The 400 smashed pots taught you everything you needed to know to create this," he said, sweeping his hand along the magnificent shelf. "Your true masterpiece." Elena looked at the shelf, and the wall she had built around her heart finally crumbled into dust. She wasn't looking at 100 chances to be perfect. She was looking at 100 days of being brave. The very next day, she walked into her studio, not with a goal of creating a masterpiece, but with the simple, joyful intention to make. She sat at her wheel, threw a new lump of clay onto its surface, and began again. And so, under the soft glow of the rising moon, Elena's studio was no longer a museum of past failures, but a workshop of endless possibility. She finally understood that her journey was never about creating one perfect piece to be displayed in a gallery under bright lights. It was about the quiet, consistent return to the craft, guided by the same gentle light that now filled her window. Her masterpiece wasn't a single pot. It was the courage to begin again, a courage that grows best, as we know here at Moonlight Stories, not in the harsh light of day, but in the soft, hopeful glow of the moon. Thank you for listening, and remember, your own story is still being made, one brave step at a time.